Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. We make Chris Skinner's Countryside podcast, and we've got something very exciting to share with you. We have a new service that's being launched, and it's called Spoken Stories.
Spoken Stories is all about recording the voices and memories of your loved ones in outstanding quality, so they can be enjoyed for generations to come. For example, you know the story that Grandma tells that everyone in the family has heard before. Well, Spoken Stories is about getting those stories down and preserving them for your family history. Spoken Stories is about gifting someone the time to capture these personalities and unique voices.
We record your loved ones' tales, whether it's their whole life story so far or something more specific like a life-changing event. It is a gorgeous experience, and what you're left with is a beautiful monologue that really captures the essence of that person.
Think of it like an audio portrait, and take a listen to a snippet of this one from Diane's spoken story, recorded in her beautiful garden.
I was born in 1951 at Newmarket, and unfortunately I didn't see Mum for a year. I was looked after by a lovely nurse called Diane, my name, because my mum had TB when I was born. And so my mother never worked because with her problem with her, lungs, she had to go and have it sort of pumped up every so often. She used to do a lot of dressmaking, so she always made our clothes years ago. But yeah, she was a lovely mum, yeah, and Dad as well, yeah. That's very nice childhood I had, yeah, very nice. Yeah. I got married February the 16th, 1974. The weather was gorgeous. I ended up having putting a big sort of T-shirt under my wedding dress I didn't need. I had a lovely one of those transparent umbrellas in case it rained, and it was just a beautiful day. I think I'm always sort of quite cheerful. I mean, if I go down the Luke and deliver some eggs to somebody, I'll meet somebody and chat, and then Paul say, "Where have you been?" I said, "I've been chatting to people." That's just my way. That's just how I am. We've always lived here. We had this built in 1974. They put the footings down in February and we moved in the August. Years ago, I used to go around the village on a bike, and when I had Ian, he'd sit on the back. We live in a lovely area. We've got lovely neighbours. They help us all out, which you all do with neighbours, and that's very, very nice. And as I said to Paul, I'm hoping we can keep this place on until, well, I don't want to move from here until I go out in a brown box. I hope that's not too soon.
If you'd like more information about Spoken Stories and to take advantage of our special introductory offer, you can head to www.soundyard.org/spoken stories.
And keep listening after this episode with Chris, and you'll hear another example of a spoken story. It's a view of the world from a 6-year-old.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Countryside podcast. It's a little bit of an unusual one today, or rather, I should say, this evening, because Matthew is working and unavailable for this particular podcast. I think it's podcast number 61, and Matthew's been present on well over 50 of the last podcasts. So tonight, I've put out an invitation to somebody very special, and we've got something in common between us, because I'm joined tonight by Kate Blinko. She grew up on a farm. I grew up on a farm, and we share the same home because it's formerly Kate Skinner. Evening, Kate. Hello.
Good evening, Dad.
Yes, a little bit unusual. And so what we're going to do, because I said good evening, everybody, is we're going to do a nighttime safari around High Ash Farm. We're going to finish up in a coffee room here at the farm with some of your questions, which we really value. And we're going to go out and see what we can see. I love the nighttime. Just think of everything that's out and about in daytime hours, it's taken over by kind of the opposite species at night. Just for example, owls and take over from hawks, if you like, and harriers. Swift swallows and house martins, they're replaced in the hours of darkness because they all feed on flying insects by bats, and in the summer by nightjars. And then butterflies in the daytime have a kind of nighttime equivalent, which are the moths. I don't know what we're going to see as we're driving round, so it's always sort of seat of the pants kind of job. And so I'm always a little bit nervous because we might be driving around and see absolutely nothing, but it's okay because I've already got a red face, and so it doesn't matter. It's just purely for fun and for education as well, and maybe we'll see something that makes us laugh. So Kate's already in the farm pickup truck. There you are. And I'll put my torch over here and my spotlight, and I'm now going to hop in and shut the door, seatbelt, there we are, and off we go.
Chris Skinner's Countryside Podcast with Matthew Gudgeon.
Excellent. Well, I'm in the truck, Kate's strapped in beside me, and we're just driving down one of the farm tracks to an area of woodland called Cantley Hill Plantation. And it's light, sandy soil, ideal for lots of mammals, and we're just driving down beside one of the horse paddocks now. Headlights on. What can you remember of being a child here, Kate?
Well, I can remember this sort of thing actually, that going out in the night safaris and all the kind of crazy stuff growing up on a farm. So used to fix a sledge behind the car or the truck, and then we'd drive along grass sledging at like 30 miles an hour, and there would be bonfires we'd light, or the playing in hay bales, so loads of kind of slightly dangerous, crazy farm kid stuff. That was the exciting bit. And then the other side of it, I guess, was that it was a working farm, and there was that underlying kind of current of pressure when the weather wasn't right, and that fear of losing a crop and seeing how hard you worked all the time and the dangerous machinery. So on the one hand it was like crazy fun, and on the other hand it was that real sense of how hard it is to be a farmer.
Yeah, similar for me really, except the danger was even greater then.
Yeah.
I don't think many of the implements had guards on them, and I hardly knew my father, and looking back I feel somewhat embarrassed about how little. I think you thought your dad was just something in a tractor.
I thought you were a workaholic, definitely.
Yes.
But I don't know if there's another way of doing the job.
No, probably not. Look, in front of us,
Yeah, that's rabbit.
rabbits galore. It's light, sandy soil in this area. It's about 12 acres, about 5-6 hectares of woodland, mature, been here a long, long time, covered in bluebells in the spring. And it's basically too hilly and too sandy. There's almost a vertical escarpment in the centre of the woodland, and it's sandy gravel, as I said, ideal for rabbits. And so as we go round, although rabbits and hares look rather similar, they are completely different, and the rabbits will run to cover, and all the ones we've been past already, probably seen 20-25 rabbits. They've all gone straight into the woodland, and I like hares because they do different than Norfolk Motto. They run out into the open, and you don't see hares in woodland very, very rarely, just in the winter months. They've got a penchant for eating holly, which is very strange, whereas rabbits just like grass nibbled, very short around the edges of the woodland. So I'm just looking round. We're nearly gone round this particular area of woodland complete. It's still quite early in the evening, probably going round around midnight would have been better, but we've both got busy lives. You've got children, your Sam and Annie, and mine have all grown up and fled the nest, kind of thing, luckily for me.
I've got teenagers, so they don't get up too early, so...
Right, so we've just left the woodland behind us. Oh, rabbit's still going. Yeah, we're quite close to an avenue of Scots pine coming away from the woodland there.
Fireworks over Norwich?
Yes, yes. It's fireworks season as well, but because we're way out in the open on the farm, I don't think the fireworks, which will probably be at their worst tomorrow night, will have much of an effect, but it is quite spectacular. Right, I just saw some eyes in front of us, so I don't know what we've got. Let's have a look. Right out in the middle, this is a very large arable field. Oh, wow!
Lovely.
What can you see?
I can see 2 big deer. Beautiful. We got roe deer.
Roe deer.
White bums flashing.
White bums. Well done. Yeah, very descriptive. That's exactly what. And what they're doing is grazing on the sandfoin and clover here. It's their favourite food, and they're right out in the open, pretty much almost strictly nocturnal. And
down.
look at that, they're incredible. They were laying down grazing, and now, which is why they're called fairies of the wood, they have this art of disappearing. Where have they?
I think they did go over here.
Oh, goodness. There they are. There they are.
Now look,
Firework in the background and 2 deer in
white
front.
bums.
But they're not particularly worried about us. They're right out in the open. They know they can outpace predators. But yeah, I wonder why foxes and things like that hunt out at night. And maybe it's because there were wolves here, and so deer became more nocturnal. Wolves are really good daytime hunters, and of course they're extinct in the UK now. Something out there, I think that's the original too. But believe it or not, they've given us the slip there. What have you got?
I don't know. Maybe nothing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's fantastic start. They're British natives, so we've got so many introduced species. Something else right over there, just sparkling away. If I turn the lights away, that's a good caught up. Oh, skylark. Just got up. I just got up. And I tend to zigzag a bit, so there are lots of birds out on these fields. The sheep will be grazing off the surplus grass quite shortly.
So I always remember seeing lapwing when we used to go out when I was a kid. Do you still have any on the farm?
Yes, we do, particularly once the weather gets harsh on the near continent. Lapwing are quite nomadic, and they'll come over, and actually they're really noisy at night. I'm glad you said that. They're almost nocturnal.
Yeah, that's when I remember seeing.
And you just hear their high-pitched squeak going on. Well, part of their nicknames, I suppose, are peewits, because that's a really bad name for them, but it's the noise they make when they're feeding at night. It's kind of peewit like that, and just love them. But black and white birds, the only one you could really confuse them with is magpies. Now, something's given us the slip again over here. Big fields. Skylark again going up, another one. So lots of changes through my childhood, the end of the horse era, working horses that is on the farm, and more mechanisation. And for you, that had already happened, and new varieties were coming on, cereal varieties.
Very much the industrial 80s and 90s with high yields and hard work, and many more hedgerows been put back in since those days, haven't there?
Yes, I was pretty much in the village called Attila the Hun, so did all the baling with one box of matches, and then the straw choppers came along on the back of combines, and that changed everything. So all the humus, the organic matter that the previous crop produced after the grain had been taken off was incorporated back into the soil with ploughing. And now we tend to remove the straw. It's quite a valuable product. Some goes for burning, for industrial generation of electricity, and some is used obviously still for livestock bedding and all sorts of uses, like straw board in the building trade, for instance. So there's very little wasted on farms.
Of course, the stubble burning was part of my childhood, and like some of the most exciting days were when the fields would be set on fire to burn down the straw, and then the stubble.
Yes.
I'm not sure when that was banned. Can you remember?
Yes, it's probably in the 1990s from
Yeah.
memory. It's about then. All the local ladies with their linen out on the lines used to curse and swear there'd be black smuts all over the washing line, and these plumes, it looked like some sort of warfare, and because the farm's quite high up. It's one of the second or third highest spots of the county in Norfolk, and you could see these plumes of black smoke going up into the sky. Very little regard to pollution back then, and all the chemicals we were using, the machinery as well, to produce as much food as possible with the new varieties that were coming on. More and more tractors each year, fewer and fewer farm workers, and just remember many of them. Oh, more rabbits. We've come to the top of this huge field now, so we're back. So you can see the difference there. The rabbits are all shifting across to the edge of the field. And this is quite wet soil, although we've had a best part of a month. Our first hare, and what have we got there? And there's two hares, and that's a muntjac. Muntjac, yeah, sort of. I was just standing looking at us, going off with a few leaps and bounds now. One of the introduced species, I think the Duke of Bedford brought them in to Woburn as part of his collection, this fad of bringing in lots of new species. And those hares, I was going to say, giving us a slip, they haven't.
There it is, lovely.
Just zigzagging.
Zigzagging in front of us, working out which way to go.
Yeah.
Get away from the headlights.
Brilliant vision. They can see behind them. There's just one blind spot dead in front when they're running, so they have been known to run into things, which gives them that sort of mad harebrained behaviour, but not too worried. Look, it's just sort of skirting along.
Just wondering which way to go, really.
Yes, yeah, but we don't sort of stress anything. No. It's ambled off very nicely and comfortably. So I'm glad it's been dry weather at the moment now for about 2 weeks really without rain, so we can venture out onto these fields without having to call Daniel, your brother.
Yeah, I don't want to push the truck, thanks. That's not what I signed up for.
Oh, good. So we're clocking up the mammal species without knowing it. Rabbits, deer, hares.
We've got skylark as well. That's our
yes.
only bird.
Yeah. Yes. So I miss the lapwing. Now a red list species. They've declined hugely. Drainage of agricultural land. Lots of. Oh wow! Look at this. I'm just trying to see if they're red deer or rose. I think they're all roe deer. We've got the three, possibly a roebuck, the front one, he's the largest.
The back one's smallest.
The back ones, yeah. Wow, they're getting a shift on. That's a lovely sight. Again, the white buttocks with the raised hairs, just to show the one in front leads the way, and the others behind it can follow the white scut on the back end of the one. Wow, they've made it to another hare, and there they are. Oh, lovely! Look at that. They're thinking about going over the ditch, under or over, through the hedge. When the first one goes, the others will follow. And a moth. Oh, look at that. Wow. 5 deer in, 10, 15 minutes. And that's why
6, don't forget the muntjac.
I love the farm like this. There's such a variety of wildlife. And you wouldn't see those
No.
in the daytime. There's 13 odd areas of woodland, some quite large, some very small indeed on the farm now. So there's plenty of habitat for them. They can cause a bit of damage at certain times of the year, particularly the young roe bucks when the antlers are just coming through. They're covered in velvet and they tend to frazzle young trees. They seem to get in a bit of a temper and and take the bark off. Fantastic. Right, we've done a bit on the north side of High Ash Farm, most of it in Caistor and Edmund, some where we just were at the top in Arminghall, and we're just going to cross the road which goes through the centre. Huge fireworks going off way in the distance.
Luckily not too close, so they won't disturb the
No,
horses
no,
or the
no.
wildlife,
That's
so
true. That is
I'm
a huge.
happy with that distance. I can enjoy the bright lights without the loud bangs. That's all good.
Another rabbit running the opposite way to the hare, straight into the hedge there, and there's another large warren there, just about
Really
100
sandy
yards
on the
away.
other side there, isn't it?
Pure, bright white sand there. I dug some of that out for your childhood sandpit.
And the High Ash Beach.
For you to play in with your brothers when you were young. Excellent. Right. Well, that's the first part of our nocturnal safari done. We'll head to the southern half of High Ash Farm now and into Stoke-Holy Cross, the next village. Do we need a passport? Roe deer going through the woodland in front of us. We're quite close to Badgerset where we are here, Fox's Grove. Let's just look over there, and very well secreted, that roe deer in the undergrowth, and it just stood still for a moment and kind of disappeared completely. That's the art of camouflage, knowing when to stay still. Kate.
Wow, being spoiled with the deer tonight. How's that? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Wow, hang on, is that?
Yeah.
There's some really little ones.
6. There's 5 roe deer and
5.
1 Chinese water
Oh.
deer, and they've split off. The Chinese. There's the Chinese water deer there.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yeah,
really little
quite
things.
diminutive.
Yeah.
Sort of not quite that shiny white bottom, but
have little
big
tusks.
teddy bear ears and sort of quite a small head compared to the large body, although it's sort of smaller than a Labrador size. And that was a clutch of deer. I don't know,
wow.
at our own
There
High
seems
Ash.
so many together.
We've come to the other side of the farm completely. So these are fresh deer, if you like, that we haven't seen before. And we're in a good area here because this is a lovely wildflower field. It's pollen and nectar now, and there's south-facing slopes, sandy soil, and there's a drought-resistant plant which is getting up towards knee height here, and it's lucerne. Some people, particularly in America, call it alfalfa. It's a really high-protein, valuable feed plant, and the deer know that. It's instinctive in them, and that's why we had our very own herd of deer. Goodness me. There's the Chinese water deer right in front of the car.
They have got big ears, haven't they?
Yeah. Teddy bear ears.
That's it, yeah. Rounder.
Beautiful, beautiful animals. They are more Chinese water deer per square mile in East Anglia than in their native country in China, in the river delta regions, which is what they love, their natural habitat. And we're just going tiny bit. There's the Chinese water deer again, and just looking at, oh,
yeah,
look
more
here,
roe deer.
more roe deer. Wow. And this is a fallow plot for nesting lapwing. for next spring. We do still have them nesting here occasionally. Lots of hares in the distance. Two I can see quite close together. And just scanning over here. What was that? I'm just looking for... That's another hare. Yeah, that's 3 hares there. And another one. Yes.
Left and right.
Yeah, straight in front.
Oh yeah, it's ambling along, not at all bothered. Can't even be bothered to run. Oh, loads more hares. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6.
6 hares.
Wow, and that other one, so yeah.
That beats what's on top of my head.
Yeah, they love it.
It's been cultivated, this field, and left as a fallow plot for next year. So that's why it's a little bit bumpy, which is why we're going slow.
A bone shaker.
Heavy clay soil. But it's just greening up again now, so it's kind of verdant, fresh growth, which is what the hares love. And open countryside, again, hares are born out in the open from the word go, whereas rabbits are born underground in a stop. Rabbits are born with their eyes shut, hares with their eyes open. And what I'm looking out for particularly is like a clenched fist sitting up on the ground, and that would be one of our little owls. Look down there, what have we got? Oh, more hares. Hang on, no. More deer. Just looking at us. Very nice, what a beautiful sight. They're roe deer.
Yep.
Not at all worried, they're just
No,
grazing away
stomping around.
on the field margin. That's what I love about high ash. Nothing really gets disturbed any more than what we're doing tonight, and lots of people walking round. So if you're out and about early in the morning, you can enjoy really what we're seeing, because there's lots of permissive walks on the farm, and it's really rewarding and quite good for the soul, even for me, although I live and work here. I always feel uplifted when I've seen things like we're seeing tonight.
That's why I like going out on the horse, because you can get closer to things, you can just sort of almost be part of the countryside, and I think things aren't as scared of you as well when you're on horseback, which you just got that kind of real kind of immersion in it.
Yes, I can understand that, but
You're not gonna go
I'm a
your
bit late to be a horse rider.
horseback
Although
podcast.
my father spent most of his childhood in the saddle, either
Yeah.
with the working horses or when he was in New Zealand farming merino sheep. I got some wonderful pictures of him with one of his dogs back then, and yeah, it's very romantic, but I know how hard work it is and always has been with agriculture, particularly when everything was done by hand. Right, we are now crossed from Caister into Stoke Holy Cross. It's the three village challenge, and a rabbit takes us away just nicely there, just on that corner. 10 feet from the rabbit. Right, up the edge of the field, another rabbit.
My favourite spot's for a canter up here, because it's not too far, so you don't lose control, but it's a nice uphill.
Yes, I hadn't ever thought of that. It's a bit risky racing downhill on a horse,
yeah,
is it?
yeah,
Right,
definitely. I
as I
mean,
said, I'm a horse.
Asking for trouble.
Right, let's have a little scan on here. We call this the lake field because there's about 1,000 square metres of water in the far corner, and we've seen otters in there, grass snakes, and good place for owls, for barn owls hunting. We've had them nesting here this year, and we've got 2 youngsters, and I got a lovely email doing this week, somebody who just sat early evening and watched a pair of high ash barn owls hunting, and said it was just mesmerising.
I haven't seen a barn owl for a while, actually, so
Yeah, but this is a good time
Yeah.
for them to be out, and it's not pouring with rain.
yeah, so
and not windy, and there's some of the conditions they really like. And there's ample food, particularly in mid-autumn like we are. The vole population is probably at its highest at this time of the year, and all the overwinter wild-bred seed mix and all these newly planted hedgerows is really good habitat for them. And we're coming up to another fallow plot in a moment. 24 metres of cereals right around this field, and then the centre of it is fallow, and not for ground nesting birds like the other fallow plot we saw. It's for really rare arable weeds. My father has just stabbed me in the back, I think. And anyway, things like shepherd's needle, and there's some really great rarities in it. We're just driving through a little track here where the tractor went through to do the cultivation, and in front of us suddenly 5 acres of bare, and immediately a hare in front of us there. Back another 2, 3 there.
See more hares than rabbits, haven't we?
Yes, yeah, and because we've gone quite early, the hares are out, and if we went round again where we started, Cantley Hill, there'd probably be the best part of 50 rabbits there already. Mainly nocturnal, both the species. Of all those hares kind of secrete themselves in daytime, the hares particularly. Rabbits go down in the warrens, but occasionally rabbits come out on warm summer evenings and sun themselves. They just lounge about, stretched out, soak up the rays of the sun. And hares go in what we call a form. It's a little depression in the ground, and it's called a form because it's the same shape as the hare's body. It's sort of deeper one end than the other.
And it's trip over them, can't you?
Yes, and so they're so well camouflaged, that sort of tawny gold coat with white hair underneath, really well insulated. They have to be, because young leverets born sort of January, February, March, early in the year. I don't know what we got here.
A black and white cat. Out on the prowl. Yeah. Gonna cross over back to. We've probably been doing a bit of hunting.
Excellent. We'll just go round. We're well into Stoke Holy Cross now, and we'll just go round this little field. There's an area at the bottom which is also a good place to see owls. But that crop on our right, overwinter wild-bred seed mix, is so tall it's basically shoulder height. So if we drive in it, it could put some of the wildlife at danger. So we won't do that. And it just flattens the crop, and it needs to be standing. Ideally, when you get snow, then birds like linnets, siskins, goldfinches in particular, with the teasels that are growing here as well. If they're still standing upright, the birds can get the seed. Let's just have a little look. There's a little short area here, and just have a look. Hare jumping out over the top. Lepus europinus, the scientific name. Oh, Kate! Little owl!
Yes,
Little. Oh, wow! 12 feet from us.
Looking right at us.
That is perfection. Look at that. On one of the farm tracks, and just flown up into a short oak tree, and now it's shot off. Another introduced species, really reintroduced, I should say, because it was a native owl here before the last ice age, and then once Britain became in the grips of the ice for quite a number of millennia, they became extinct here, and they were reintroduced in about 1850 or so, some into Nottingham, and then subsequent 2 or 3 other introductions, and since then they've done really well, spreading northwards now. They went through a difficult bit in the early 1900s when many were shot. Oh, 2 hares right on the other side. This is just a little 3-acre field, and interesting with the wildlife on the farm now, the small fields sort of top trump the large fields in terms of wildlife. It's the hedges, I think, the different habitat, and a hare right in front of us, look. Perfect. That was quite a sight. Britain's smallest owl, Athene noctua. I love it.
Looked very sternly, didn't it? Sat there perched.
They've always got that kind of frown. I think they've got dark eyebrows and these huge yellow eyes, so they always look very, as you said, cross, stern or whatever, scolding. And I don't blame it. It was just peacefully eating worms on the farm track. And that's the main diet, actually, worms and beetles. I have found little owl pellets in the past, and they're jet black and shiny, and it's all the kind of indigestible remains of beetles.
Like bat droppings are like that as well, aren't they?
Yes,
really shiny and black.
Right, I suppose we've done about 10% of the area of High Ash, and that's a kind of taste of the wildlife, things that we're seeing tonight that you wouldn't see tomorrow morning or during the daylight hours. And most of it is pretty strictly nocturnal, although that little owl, the last contributor to the podcast tonight, out on the farm anyway, is diurnal, so they're one of the few owl species that like sunbathing, and we got lots here, but they're hard to see because basically it's like a clenched fist on the ground, huge feet in comparison to the body size, and a razor sharp beak, and cumbersome flyers in daylight, sort of a looping flight, rather like woodpeckers. They seem to forget flying almost, and quite terrestrial, spend a lot of time on the ground, but about in daylight hours as well. They love sunning themselves outside their nest boxes. And funny enough, all the owls, the tawnies, the barn owl and the little owl, they're the three main species here at the farm. They can all hunt just as well in daylight hours, but because their prey's out at night, small mammals, and in the case of the little owls, beetles and worms.
The ducks at High Ash Farm going in to roost for an evening. Hey everyone, it's Matthew here, and if you've been enjoying our Countryside podcasts, we've got a small favour to ask.
Yes, Matthew. What we're going to do is to ask for a small donation to help run the podcast, and any surplus goes for conservation at High Ash Farm here. And so it's really important. We both love to keep the podcast going, and that duck agrees with me, I think.
Well, it's straightforward to donate. You can make a one-off donation or set up a small monthly contribution, and the address is highashfarm.com/podcast.
We're hugely grateful for any support. It means we can keep sharing the stories of the countryside, which I love doing each week, but it's that small amount of costs we need to cover. So thank you very much in advance. They're mainly nocturnal. Worms would quickly desiccate if they're out on a hot summer's day, but they come to the top at night, and the little owls just go along and gobble them up. So I love having them here. Right, we've got some podcast questions to do, so we'll drive back to the farm, if that's all right with you, unless you want to do some more. No?
Oh, well, stay out here all night, but I haven't seen my barn owl yet, but I might have to come back another day for that.
Yes, yeah, they're definitely here. In the past, I have seen them quite regularly. About from now onwards, as the cover dies down, they have their favourite haunts for hunting, and this field in front of us is actually a really good one for them. There we are. Well, we've got our seatbelts on. We've been very good, kept those on.
Don't trust you driving in the dark. Remember that from childhood, going down the steep hills fast. Make us all scream.
Excellent. Right. Well, we'll head back to the farm, hop in the coffee room and see what questions we've got. Well, we're back at the farm now after our brief safari around the farm, and we've come into the coffee room. Kate and I are sitting around a round table right in the middle here, and Kate's thrust a book under my face. It's called Under the Changing Skies, and it's the best of the Guardian's country diary. And I know you write regularly in The Guardian, and this is dated from 2018 to 2024, so it's right up to date. And are they all your articles in there? Or?
No, I'm very happy to have 4 articles in here, and they're all based at the farm. So there's a little bit of High Ash Farm that goes out in Guardian's Country Diary and is in this book.
Excellent. So I'm sort of doing the podcast bit, and you're the more educated and thoughtful part of the family.
I think the difference between us is that you're someone who communicates by speaking,
right.
And you're very good at that. And I'm someone who communicates by writing. And I love the Country Diary because it is all about communicating those moments in nature in only just over 300 words, so you don't have a lot of space. You have
you're limited, are you?
You choose your words really carefully because they all have got to count, and it's they're little stories really about special moments that people have had in nature, and this book is packed full of them. It's a kind of seasonal look through month by month of all the best articles that have gone out, and some really
right. Have you got anything all to me then? Go on, I'm going to test you out.
Yeah, I can read you one of my pieces from here, which is a sort of end of the summer, start of the autumn feel. And this is at the farm here. The last of the Victoria plums are rotting on the ground. I step around them, avoiding the sticky mess and gorging wasps. The air has a sweet alcoholic tang, like the day after a big party. Peacock butterflies and red admirals flit from fallen fruit, drinking the fermented juices. Docile and plum drunk, a peacock lands on my hand, wings all tatty now. I scavenge a couple of partly edible plums still hanging on the trees, making sure to check for maggots before biting. Many of the fruit have been affected by the pinkish caterpillar of the plum moth, which burrows into the flesh to feed around the stone. When sated, they will spin a cocoon hidden away in the bark of the tree to emerge as dull, greyish-brown moth in May next year. Looking up at the branches rather than the ground, I nearly squish my summer-sandalled foot in something. There, beneath a tree, like vomit outside a nightclub, is a pile of dark purple excrement, dotted with plumstones and nestled in a scrape. It's a badger latrine. It has a musky, sweet but feral smell. And, to another badger, it's a social message. Badgers anoint their droppings with scent from the glands under their tail, typically to mark territory or indicate the mating status. The badgers visiting this orchard were most likely from a set about a mile away. Their faeces mark this spot as theirs. Odour is an important part of badger communication, and a community will also set scent on each other. Known as allomarking, this produces a combined communal perfume that's different from that of a neighbouring clan. The fallen plums signal the dying days of summer. This change of season always weighs heavily on me, like a hangover. Already I miss the swifts screaming overhead. The third brood of swallows are nearly ready to leave too. All that's left is that alcoholic tang of rotting fruit and the sweet knowledge that badgers have been here. Now I must turn my face to autumn.
Oh, very evocative. Well done. Yes, I can see what you mean by being a wordsmith, but I'd do the same thing, but in about 3,000 words.
You're good at talking, and that's
right. Well, I'll try and see if there's any questions to answer, but I think we've got some observations as well this week. So here we go with this week's podcast questions.
Yeah, we've got some emails in today. So, this one. Thank you, Chris, Matthew and Rat, for putting together a lively, engaging, informative podcast as you've done for so many years at BBC Norfolk. I've always found your shows entertaining, intensely human and always informative. I'm glad you're carrying on with the podcast. My very best wishes and thanks to the many hours I spent listening to you both, Rat and the inhabitants of High Ash Farm. And, oh yes, I'm from Singapore, the tiny red dot right around the other side of the globe. So that's from Carl Pan. Wow.
Wow, that's
Going global.
incredible. Wow. And as for rat, well, he's kind of become it's a new word in the dictionary, or it's become a very fashionable word. It's called brat.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what he is, rat.
Yeah.
And so, because he's so noisy, he's actually asleep in the tractor almost beside us at the moment. So he's got a night off.
Yeah. Well, I heard that the trendy thing, looks-wise, for men over the summer was it was a rat boy summer.
Oh,
but
right.
you just have a rat summer.
I've got a rat, yes.
There you go. That's as good as we get here. I've got another one here. So, hi, Chris and Matthew. Listening to your description of crows doing courtship displays, I was reminded of seeing alpine choughs doing amazing flying corkscrews and somersaults when I was visiting Switzerland some years ago. As I was not familiar with choughs, I imagined they always flew like that. Now, I wonder if it was seasonal courtship behaviour. It was in June. It was a wonderful experience to watch their aerobatics.
Almost certainly. They're the most acrobatic members of the crow family. We have them here in the UK, but particularly right over in the west side of, particularly on the cliff areas of Wales and along rocky coasts. They're unusual birds, a bit smaller than a jackdaw, to give you an idea, but quite a long, down-curved red bill and bright blood red legs as well. Mm-hmm. So really very interesting, but all our corvids here at the moment are doing acrobatics. They're pairing up and they do this kind of corkscrew flying, copying the choughs, if you like, as a main way of sort of establishing pair bonding and sort of impressing the females. I've tried it myself sometimes.
Yes. Well, that was from Jenny Williams in West Sussex.
Thank you.
So, yeah, lovely. Hi, Chris and Matthew. Been listening to you both on the radio and now the podcast for more than 3 years, and just wanted to let you know how much I look forward to listening every week. We live in Surrey, on the edge of a wood and a river, only about 75 metres away, so we're lucky enough to have many different types of wildlife in the garden. Thank you for educating and amusing me every week. From Sue Rayner, and we've got some beautiful photos.
I know, she's got a fantastic Acer in glorious autumn colour. We talked about colours on last week's podcast. And then what we've seen tonight, a roebuck. I had to puzzle it out because there's no sign of antlers on this young boy, but it's definitely a boy. And then I could sort of look in the picture. I could see in the background another roe deer, and this is obviously in your garden. And then just under the deer's feet, a row of daffodils coming through, which tells me it's late January, early February, and that young fellow hasn't yet got his antlers. So there we are. But beautiful, beautiful mammal. Yeah, I'm very jealous.
Black trim on his ears.
Yes, that's the giveaway, because there's several deer species, when they're young, look quite similar to each other. So there we are. Anyway, it's definitely a roe deer.
Yeah, wonderful. Right, we've got a question here from Kerry. And she wondered, I was just thinking about the sunflower seed and wondering if you leave all the sunflowers across autumn and winter, or do you harvest the seeds? And if you leave them, what do you do with all the tough stalks and seeds heads in the spring?
Yep, they're grown just for the birds. Green finches absolutely love them. The heads, very convenient this time of the year, when the seed is formed and they finish flowering, the heads face downwards, so they kind of keep themselves dry. And there's those lovely, luscious, high-protein seeds underneath, perhaps a couple of hundred seeds in a large sunflower head. And we leave those, the birds perch on the top of them, particularly when the weather's very cold, and peck them out. And then we chop up the remains of the sunflowers next spring, and it all gets incorporated back into the soil to improve soil humus.
Oh, there you go. Right, an interesting one from Christine Van Welsons here. And this is something that has been annoying me. So actually this is really quite good. And she says, hello, just before listening to my favourite 40 Minutes of the Week, I read that in the 17th century, the term fall was used in the UK until the 18th century, when the term autumn was adopted from the French word automne. I always thought that we'd copied this term from America, and I guess Chris did too, so I thought I'd share this. I shall no longer mind hearing the autumn referred to as the fall, as I once did.
It's funny because on last week's podcast, I actually said I like the word fall. It's really descriptive. And as we were driving round tonight, you could actually just see the leaves falling off the trees. I didn't know that, but from now on, I'm quite prepared to call it fall and have the wrath of the nation on me.
It does sound Americanised, but
anyway, thank you, everybody.
Okay.
The response is always hugely valuable to us, and it's our little reward for taking the time to spend an hour or so and sharing it with everybody who likes to listen to our podcast.
No, that's amazing to get those in. And if you would like to send in your questions or comments to Chris, then you can email them to chris@countrysidepodcast.co.uk.
This is a Soundyard production. Music is by Tom Harris. To hear more episodes, head to countrysidepodcast.co.uk. To hear more episodes, head to countrysidepodcast.co.uk. This is a Soundyard production. Music is by Tom Harris. This is a Soundyard production. Music by Tom Harris.
Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. Our new service, Spoken Stories, is an incredible experience where we record the stories and voice of your loved one, which you can then hold on to forever.
It makes for an incredible gift, and anyone can make one. Take a listen to this. It beautifully captures the thoughts and feelings of life from a 6-year-old's perspective.
I'm 6 years old and I love running around. I can run very, very fast, but I'm even faster on my bike. That's why I love biking. It makes me feel energetic. And also I bike loads of places. I like doing sports like dodgeball. The people that are in charge in the world, well, I think that there should be no one in charge at all. So everyone's in charge. So there's no person that's in charge. So everyone is it's a bit more free. That's what I think. Well, what I try to change at the moment is global warming. It's when us humans litter, destroy the planet and all its nature. That's global warming. It makes me feel sad. And also, if us humans keep doing that, and that it could destroy the whole planet Earth, and then all of the human beings will be destroyed. I try to stop global warming. And also, in my coat pocket, I have a bit of Kit Kat litter I found on the floor once. I love the planet more than anything. Grown-ups should be stopping global warming because grown-ups are more powerful than kids. But if kids can be more powerful than grown-ups, kids and grown-ups can work together and do it. Kids should be able to do the same things as grown-ups. They should have more rights. Well, I love myself because that I believe in a lot of things. That's what I love about myself. I like being a kid, but because when I'm a grown up, I'm gonna have my own kids because that's what I want. And also, I'm a bit worried to have kids. And I'm still going to be a kid for like a long, long time. So I'm glad that's actually going to happen. I'm glad I'm going to stay a kid for a long time. I'm going to have kids because I want to know what it feels like to be a parent. I'm going to be a good parent.
Isn't that just gorgeous? If you'd like to find out more about recording a spoken story of your own, or you'd like to buy this as a present for someone, take a look at our website, www.soundyard.org/spoken stories, and take advantage of our introductory offer. Alternatively, you can get in touch via email, hello@soundyard.org.
And if the internet isn't an option, you can leave a message with your details on our landline number. It's 01603 273 899, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.